Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and you might not be aware of this, but I'm actually a very big fan of the Greenskins. It's been a faction that I've really enjoyed in Total War Warhammer since their rework, and I've been a massive fan of them since the tabletop. In fact, one of my dream armies on the tabletop is a full Savage Orc army list. And while the Greenskins are in an actual good place, they still need a little bit more flavor. This is something that I've discussed in the past, as it needs to separate the cultures a little bit. It needs to bring in a bunch of missing lords and heroes, and let's be honest, a lot of missing unit types too, because the Greenskins had one of, if not the most diverse roster on the tabletop and in lore. Thankfully, however, modders do come into the rescue here until we eventually get some stuff from Creative Assembly, and this is Speshul, a very popular mod from Warhammer 2, which has recently made its resurgence in Warhammer 3. It's still in its beta form, however, we need to talk about it as it's quite a good mod and it's got a lot of potential to expand. If it turns out anything like it was in Warhammer 2, yeah, we're in for a very good time. So yeah, let's talk about some changes, which you've already probably seen a few on screen right now, but let's just jump right in. So in the construction tab, you'll notice that there are a bunch of new units, also new heroes too. We're going to talk about them in a very short time. It's also very important to note that the Savage Orc building tree is available to the other factions too, as you'll be able to build up a bunch of Savage Orcs and also Forest Goblins too. Yeah, there's actually quite a bit here, and it's going to flesh out your roster. If you're looking to get more of a complete experience with your Orcs and Goblins, if you basically want to run the 8th edition army book, you're going to get pretty damn close with this mod. Everything is nicely spread out, so it's not going to feel like it's actually really overwhelming, and it's something that we could see happening in the future officially too, as, yeah, it's not cluttered, and clutter is a bad thing, right? So we do have loads of lords and heroes, and the first one here is going to be the Savage Orc Great Shaman. As you can imagine, this is a Savage Orc leader, so you can actually run Savage Orc armies with Warzag if you so wish, which for me is a big thing. And the character itself looks pretty cool. There'll be a little showcase there a little bit later. You've got access to a war boar and a wyvern too. You've got access to the lore of the big war. Everything else is as you can expect, but that kind of makes sense, as not a lot of work is kind of needed for a Savage Orc Shaman. You've already got skills that can already boost up these troops anyway, so the character jumps in for a bit more theming, and yeah, I'm all for it. Keep in mind, by the way, just a quick note, that you can use this mod alongside decomposed expanded rosters for the Greenskins, but some stuff might actually end up duplicating, so if you don't mind that, then you're perfectly fine, as apparently they do share some assets here and there, so it's just good to know. Anyways, once we start moving on, we do have another Lord option. This is the Forest Goblin War Chief, and yeah, this is in case you want to run a Forest Goblin army. As I know some people do miss Forest Goblins, it's actually a massive shame that later editions of Warhammer Fantasy kind of just made them focus on cavalry and big monsters, rather than also having Forest Goblin units. But yeah, you get access to a giant wolf mount, or even a giant spider, which you kind of want because theming, you know, they worship a big spider after all, more on that a little bit later. But yeah, you've got a pretty good set of things here. You've got like the usual stuff, right? You're going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. You've got some magical attacks too. The idea is the character's not going to do a lot of damage. Keep in mind that obviously this is a Forest Goblin. You're not expecting big numbers here, but theming is very, very important, and I think it works very well with the style that they're trying to go for here. Lost to Insanity is just allowing for everyone to have a little bit of everything, and I think that's a good thing, especially for the Greenskins. Okay, so now we're going on to the hero section. The first is the Savage Orc Big Boss, and yeah, he's T-posing riding on his blade, but that doesn't actually happen in the actual battles. It's just right now in campaign. But yeah, okay, so Savage Orc Big Boss is just a hero character to protect your spellcaster. He also does have some unique skills, which will focus on giving Vanguard to your Savage Orc Bull Riders and so on, which is pretty damn good. I must say it does help a lot. Or you can boost them up. It very much depends on how you prefer it. But this is a melee focused character. He's also got some skills to be able to do some anti-launch damage, so overall very, very useful, especially if you're fighting any big monsters. It just helps to have some protection for your Savage Orc Great Shaman, as those are generally squishy. Even with a wyvern, you're going to want a little bit of melee to protect him. Plus again, Savage Orcs. I obviously have a bias here, but Savage Orcs are really, really cool. Let's be honest here, right? By the way, it's very important to scroll when you're on the hero section, because there are a lot of different heroes, but we're going to look into something quite unique. When you go into the Shaman section, there is now the Forest Goblin Shaman, and you might be thinking, oh, it's just another goblin with the lore of the Little War, but no, this is a new type of spell lore too, which is the lore of the spider. as in lore, what happens here is that the forest goblins kind of worship a spider god, and they're very, very attached to it, kind of more so than Gork and Mork, as the spider god is what makes the forest goblins so unique, with the whole poison aspect, all the different spider mounts and all that type of stuff. Now, obviously keep in mind that this lore of magic is not going to be one of the best lores that you're going to be able to get access to, but it does definitely have some theming if you're going to be bringing a lot of forest goblins, if you want a full forest goblin army. I mean, why not, right? I'm panning over all the spells. There's some damage spells, there's a lot of debuffs, as you can imagine, with spiders, and in all honesty, it's not too bad. I've been playing a little bit with my own campaign. I did run a Forest Goblin army. It wasn't the best, I will be very honest. It did take a few good slaps here and there, but it's definitely something which is nice, and I know old Hammer people, those who used to play the older editions, who just love Forest Goblins, will definitely appreciate. And jumping in with a quick edit here, so there is another Orc hero known as the Orc Bully. I couldn't access it before because you will need to use Mixu's Unlocker. It's actually in the recommended mod list when you go on the mod page. But you might recognize the Orc Bully from other pieces of artillery from the Greenskins on the tabletop. Basically, they've decided to make this a hero, and this kind of makes sense. It's kind of like what Creative Assembly did with a Packmaster, which is supposed to be like a part of a unit, but then has been turned into a hero in its own right. This boosts up your artillery, basically makes your artillery a little bit better, and if you like to use, like Doom Divers, Rock Lobbers, and stuff like that, this will definitely be very useful for you. It's still pretty good in melee, so you do have the option of using this guy in melee combat should you need, but he works better in the background, essentially. So far, the mod has changed a few other things too. This is something important to note because the Night Goblins no longer have poison attacks. That, of course, has been moved to the Forest Goblins, so yeah, it's very important to note that, as I know a lot of people focus on poison attacks because of the Night Goblins, and also all Goblin units now have Expendable, which kind of makes sense because the other Orcs will treat them as, yeah, they're just there to do a job more than anything else, right? So I kind of like this. It makes sense lore-wise, and it's a good change overall. Now, when we start looking towards some new units, this is where things get some interest in here, right? So we've got first the Night Goblin Squig Herders, which is something, again, that was attached to the Squigs, but unfortunately we don't have that in here because mixed units are kind of weird for Total War. And this is a good way to kind of work around that, as the Squig Herders have a little placeholder there, you can see that an ability, which stops the Squigs from rampaging and gives them a little bit of a leadership buff. Obviously, if you like to go Squig heavy, this is something that you're going to want to have in your army. So we've got two units of Forest Goblins, and we'll talk about them in the same clip. We've got the Forest Goblin Archers, and then obviously the standard Forest Goblins themselves. Yeah, they're not great in terms of stats, I'll be very honest with you. It's very important to note that, but at the end of the day, these are Forest Goblins, and the idea is if you want them for a full army, if you want some actual ground units alongside your spiders and your Ragnaroks, this is the best way to go, and I like it. Poison attacks are still very useful. They're still going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. They will get buffed up through various other sources, so you're pretty good with these units. They're not as bad as they might seem. Keep in mind that this is obviously in custom battle without any Lord buffs, any technology to give them a little bit of a boost, and all that type of stuff. The next unit itself is a Savage Giant. There's not too much to talk about here other than the fact that it's got pretty high physical resistance as it's got no armor. It's basically just a giant for your Savage Orc army, which again I can appreciate because, yeah, Savage Orcs. But yeah, I like the change. It's nice to have some variety. This is something that is technically a thing on the tabletop. You could actually boost up your giant and give them war paint to make it like a Savage Giant. And the last unique unit is the Spear Chucker, something that a lot of us have been waiting for because Creative Assembly seem to be scared of bolt throwers. I'm not too sure why, but you never know for the future. But yeah, bolt thrower, pretty basic, decent range, decent attack. It's just something if you want to take out a large monster with. Plus, I mean, it's just cool. Bolt throwers have always been kind of fun. I love using them on the tabletop, so it'll be nice to use them here too. A few Regiments of Renown have been added in. These are all Savage Orcs, which I can appreciate quite heavily. Yeah, just some buffed up Savage Orcs that you'll get naturally as you level up for your campaign, so you'll be able to recruit an army in a panic if you need to. At least that's how I kind of use the Regiments of Renown, unless it's something like a big monster or something. But in most cases, these are my, oh no, I've declared way too many wars, or way too many people are fighting me, I need an army quick, and they really do the job. I mean, Savage Orcs are generally quite good anyway. You got quite a lot of good bonuses with them, and they look cool. The painting on them is just awesome. I love Savage Orcs. Again, it can't be stressed enough. So like I said before, this is a work in progress beta at the moment, and there's stuff that's work in progress that's not in the mod at the moment, and it's not guaranteed, so don't expect this to come in. It's just, it might come in. But they want to do new playable factions with legendary lords, multiple legendary heroes, which I think is really cool because, you know, there's a lot of Greenskin characters, new additions to units, bringing back Snotlings, more additional regiments of renown, more variants. There's a lot of stuff, and this has a lot of potential as, yeah, this was a big mod in Warhammer 2, so seeing this now starting to be ported over is a really, really cool thing. I can't wait to see how this mod progresses. It plays very well with just what it has already, but you can get a lot more in the future. So it's definitely something that you'll want to keep your eyes open if you're not interested in playing Greenskins just yet, but want to do in the future. So I played around with the mod for a few hours after my stream yesterday, and I must say that I kind of had a lot of fun. I do like the idea of more Savage Orc stuff, because that gave me another reason to play another Savage Orc build with Wurzag, and actually have more Savage Orcs and not just random Orc war bosses. Yeah, it's pretty good. The Forest Goblins are pretty cool. I like the changes so far. I like having the Spear Chucker. I think there's a lot of potential with this mod, and I think it's going to be something that's going to get a lot bigger like it was in Warhammer 2. So it's only a matter of time. It's definitely a mod that deserves support. This is just a Savage Orc army on my part fighting against a random Beastmen army. And yeah, I just wanted to bully some Beastmen today. But yeah, this has a lot of potential. I can't wait to see how this evolves. It's definitely something that, again, you guys should really keep your eyes out on. It will be linked in the description below so you can check it out. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm going to let the rest of the battle play out if you want to see me like humiliate some beastmen, because that's always kind of funny. And yeah, I'll see you all again really, really soon, guys. Have a great day.
Can you cast spells? Moving fast! Gork will get him! Get ready to war! Come, boys! Big fight! Get him! Power of the war! Let's fight! We're the grain tide! Smash him! What you want? Our boys! We're off! Where's the scrap? Biggest, brutalist dog! A fight! Got it! Oh, what's that?